Welcome to Real Talk with Karia Christopher, the conversation. Our new season is filled with heart-to-heart dialogues, always unscripted and always unedited. We tackle issues from the bedroom to the boardroom. No topic is left unturned. We inspire and we ignite. We go where no one else dares, but always with dignity and flair. Join us for a new season of Real Talk as we learn, love, and laugh together. Hello, BVI, and hello, world. Of course, my name is Karia Christopher here at the Karia Crystal Studios. Let me tell y'all, it's always such a pleasure to have the ability to come into your bedrooms and in your living rooms and really just do what I love to do. So let me start this show by saying thank you all to all the viewers and the listeners for really just encouraging me with a text, a call, a shout out. And this is really what I think God has ordained for me. So today, talking about God, we have a special guest. And people cuss me out all the time. I was like, everybody's your friend? Yes, everybody's my friend, but this is my girl from back in Sick House Bay. So we are so very happy here at Real Talk to have Dr. Arliene T. Penn as my guest for this season. Dr. Penn, welcome to Real Talk. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, blessed in the name of the Lord. So you are wearing a lot of hats and we just have less than an hour to talk about everything today. So first of all, let me congratulate you on all of the hats and crowns that you are wearing. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Arliene T. Penn is now Mrs. British Virgin Islands. She is clearly a doctor. We will talk about that shortly. And newly ordained minister. So let's talk about the transition because I love a feel-good story.
Okay.
And you and I basically, I remember going to Slaney Hill to your parties every single year. We would get invited to these birthday parties and you've done really, really well for yourself. So what inspired the movement for you, Dr. Penn, to be able to have this reality? First a doctor and then a minister and now a queen. And we'll talk about all of your platforms in between. Talk to me about that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to
Absolutely.
be here. I'm so happy. And it's good to see where you are,
Thank you so much.
considering where we were, playing in Sick House Bay and to see where we are today. Let me just first start by saying that I came from a single parent home. And living in a single parent home, there are a number of things that you had to really do for yourself. And that would be, you had to be raised quickly. So I grew up quickly, very, very, very quickly. And I became a mother at the age of 18, I think 18 or 19. That is where life really started for me. So I had to grow up faster than usual. So the little Arlene you knew became the grown woman in such a time. Then I got my second son. I was about 21 years old at the time. And I became a single parent mother myself, raising two boys. But in the middle of all of that, cancer came, right? But right before the cancer, I became I was Miss Glamorous Lady BVI.
I remember that show.
Glamorous Lady BVI.
Yes.
And then from there, I became a Calypso Queen. And in being the Calypso Queen, that's when I recognized that I was a cancer visited me.
So talk to us about, because we have so much we want to talk about in this hour. It has to be a very compact show because I know that there are so many people who will be inspired. So you've always had a platform.
I've
always had a platform. I remember all of your steps to where you're at now. What I want to know as a woman, as a female, and my baseline really is that female type 30 to 60 audience. How did you know that something was wrong with your body?
B&F Medical Complex had an ad on Mother's Day. Mothers, you can come and get your pap smears done for free of charge And I decided to take the opportunity. I was the one who did the commercial because I was working at Zerad at the time. And I decided to be one of the persons who would be a part of this promotion because at the time, I couldn't afford to do a pap smear. And this was an opportune time for me to do the pap smear. And I did. And I could remember it clear as day. I'm sitting at Zerad and I get a call from BNF Medical Complex. I can hear the nurse voice. She said, Arlene, I'm sorry, but, I need you to come into the BNF Medical Complex because we found something after your pap smear. And I kept asking her, well, what is it? Tell me, what is it? And she refused to tell me on the phone what it was. She said because it would be breaking confidentiality, because of course it's over the phone. It would not be ethical for her to do that. I couldn't sleep that whole night, and I couldn't wait. The next day when I went, I heard that I had abnormal cells in my cervix. I don't know what that means. Abnormal cells in the cervix. Dr. Bruley, N.J. Bruley, she's no longer with us.
Of blessed memory.
Yes. She explained the entire thing to me. It was not cancer at the time. It was not even pre-cancer at the time. It was just abnormal cells in my cervix. But there was a way to treat it. So we went through the process where first I would have had to do a cone biopsy. And that cone biopsy was done in St. Thomas, and my cancer cells, not the cancer cells, but the abnormal cells went back to normal. I was making some promises with God during the time.
Don't we all?
Yeah, I said, God, if you help me, I'm going to serve you for
I
the
know
rest
that
of.
so well. Yes.
I'm going to serve you for the rest of my life.
Yes. Yes.
Everything went back to normal. Life for me was normal, but I wasn't checking on my body. And there were some things that God was telling me to release. There's some things you have to let go. But I wouldn't let go of those things because here I am in the prime of my public life. I am singing calypso. I am singing calypso. So I was really in my public life. I was on Zerad, working in radio. Everyone knows the Glamour Cruise. So I was popular at that time. Then something happened where I started to get some little pains here and there. And I went back to the doctor and the abnormal cells returned. When they returned, it was a little more aggressive than before. So I had to do a larger cone biopsy. And this time I had to go to Puerto Rico. It meant that this specific surgery, it was now in a hospital surgery where I would now end up with an incompetent cervix. It meant that if I were to get pregnant, doctors would have to sew me on the inside to keep the baby
Understood. Yes.
intact.
Ladies, don't you know what that means?
Hey,
yes,
come on
absolutely.
now.
Yes.
I did that, successful. But I still went back doing the same things that I was doing, even though God was speaking to me.
Being glamour girl.
Oh, hey, come on, all the time. And time lapsed. And then I started to get some real pains. As a matter of fact, my period was coming not bright red, but a little dark. So I was seeing some
telltale signs.
Yes, some changes. I felt some needle choke, some people would say it's gas, but it was like a needle choke that I was feeling at the time. And I just went to the doctor. When I went to the doctor, that's when I heard, you have cancer. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch because you see, I'd heard this before because I kept making promises and I wasn't keeping my promise, okay? And I went to 5 doctors because I didn't really want to accept the results.
reality of what that was.
No.
And so when you went to the doctor, because we're gonna take a high point, because I know people are going to be at the edge of the seats.
Yeah.
We want to hear what happened in a nutshell. But we're going to be right back because we can't have this beautiful lady on without some sponsors. So, BVI, the world, 2 minutes, 2 seconds, the beautiful Dr. Arliene T. Penn. How can you connect with people authentically from the heart? Nothing replaces the human connection better than communication. And nothing will be able to get you further along than to connect with other people. Today, I am offering you personalized one-on-one coaching on public speaking, negotiation, body language, all the necessary tools to make an impactful statement. It's about shoulders back, head straight, mastering the power pose, and giving your audience of 1, 100, or even 1,000 the biggest impact that you can dream of. I take you on a personalized journey in a private setting, holding your mic, standing at the lectern, and being authentically you, true to yourself, being a better communicator. My services will ensure that you are prepared for your next job interview, accepting a public contract, speaking at a wedding, a campaign event, addressing the boardroom. The possibilities are endless. We will ensure that you are prepared and ready to shine, no matter the audience. My many years in front of the camera with thousands of interviews, hundreds of hosting engagements, dozens of boardroom deliveries, and yes, my certifications have prepared me to teach you the tricks of the trade and prepare you for your next big step in life. I cannot think of anything in life where communication is not important. I am Karia Christopher of the Charm Academy, where we will make your voice your best asset to help you succeed. Call us today. So we are back with Dr. Arliene T. Penn, and she talked about now, Ram. We have now, it seems to be like for the third time saying something is wrong. No, you actually heard the word C, cancer. What transpired? You were hearing these words from God, but like all of us, so who am I to judge now? All of us are guilty of making these promises. Lord, if you only help me to get through with the house. Lord, if you just really just give me this job.
Yes.
Father God, if you just help me to get this child, I promise you,
Yes.
all of us
Yes.
have promised God this. And so you are now at your third promise, but you have now been conformed with the C word. Tell us how that transition to actually fulfilling your promise to God and getting a clean bill of health.
Okay, well, I went to 5 doctors because, again, the reality is what I didn't want to face. But it was the 5th doctor that I went to. I didn't know who he was, but they gave me the name and they said, you go and see him. This is where I met Dr. Kedrick Pickering.
Oh.
And I remember in the room, he looked at the results. He looked at me. He said, I am not going to examine you. Just like that. Young lady, I am not going to examine you. You need to get out of here right now because this thing is moving fast. It is aggressive and it is moving. He said, don't worry about the man. The man is not going to be there.
That sounds like him. Yeah.
He said, you have 2 children to live for. So you need to go and help yourself. Go back to your doctor and you get a referral out of here right now and go and save yourself. And I said to myself in that chair, in my mind, well, what kind of doctor they sent me to? But it was a good thing because with tears in my eyes, I got the courage Because those were the words that I needed to hear, because it was exactly what God had told me. Because sometimes we worry about people. I was worrying more about, oh boy, I'm going to lose the opportunity to have children in the future. And so these are things that I was thinking about, because you see, I was already reading about
What happens?
what happened.
What are the repercussions?
Mm.
Yeah. And being very young yourself still.
Oh, yeah. I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I was in my 20s. And I remember saying to my sons, Mommy, I have to leave, but I'm going to come back. But in my heart, I wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to come back. And that road led me to the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And I met women there, just like me. I met a lady downstairs, right before I went upstairs. It was a big plaza. And she just looked so despaired. And I'm asking her, are you okay? She says, I'm not. She says, I have cervical cancer. And they told me that I just have a week or two to live, and I just got married. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it really hit me, what I was going through. And I remember in that Dana-Farber hospital, the doctor was brilliant, a wonderful doctor, because I said to her, I don't know if I'm going to live. And before I could finish the sentence, she stopped me on my tracks and she said, I see in your form, you said that you believe in God. And she said, you came here to live. That's why you came here. You didn't come here to die. So the first thing you need to do is to change your perspective.
So we are here in 2022, and you have not been shy about your diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
You have used a platform in whatever way you can. But before we get to the full platform, you mentioned God maybe about 13 times in 14 minutes, which is good.
Yes.
We love God. We love God. My friends are just laughing because I'll be like, God, I know you're going to come true for me. And so with those promises to God and those two lovely boys that you left here in the BVI, and you are in this famous cancer institute, and God, I know it had to be, I wish we had 10 hours to talk about this whole thing, because I know that you will touch so many people's lives, so many other females who need to be able to read their body and figure out what's happening, and don't procrastinate with different things. Pap smear, I am a grown woman with 2 kids, and listen to me, hate a pap smear. Not the physical part of the pap smear, but I just don't like not to be in control. So I understand why people would, try to not do that. But a female's body is a very particular tool of devices. And so females, we need to be able to listen to your body.
Yes.
Take care of your body. And now I want to hear, now that you've taken care of your body and you promised God.
Yes.
On multiple occasions.
Yes.
And I love when you say how much time you promised him and you fell back on your promises, because though we all know that story so well, you are now a minister.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that promise to God elevate you, and I use the word elevate not lightly, to the point of minister now?
Mm-hmm.
How was that transition? Because remember now, you were glamour girl, queen this, DJ this, all sorts of stuff. Calypso queen. I mean, everything that quote unquote people would call worldly.
Yes.
And so therefore the transition for you to be now minister, and we live in a BVI, you know how the BVI are.
Mm-hmm.
You know how we be. Scrutiny, Lord, where she going? She was just on the stage jumping up. Now she tried to preach to me. Talk to me and talk to the public about that transition that you promised God, and the steps you took to get to where you are now, specifically wearing the ministerial hat.
Okay, well, the cancer is really connected to it, because I can't separate the two.
Mm-hmm.
But December 31st, I did my surgery December 28th, and December 31st is when I gave my heart to the Lord in the hospital room. Because the word that came back to me, what God said to me in prayer, is the same thing that the doctor said, Arlene, you're cured. I didn't have to do radiation. I didn't have to
Oh.
do chemotherapy because you see, doctors have said to me the only way they would know how far the cancer had spread was when they had opened up my body. But in order to save my life, doctors still went ahead and did a radical hysterectomy. And I just surrendered. No turning back. Because I followed every single instruction that God gave me on that cancer journey to where I am today. And I never stopped following God as he spoke. So he helped me to transition throughout my life into the doctorate, into ministerial work, because I've always been following what God has said, because I know what it feels like to disobey and to be disobedient. Because I was disobedient, there are some things that happen.
Consequences.
Yeah.
But don't you think now, as the ministerial hat, I think of all the hats that you wear, and
Yes.
we're going to get into, we got to find the time to get into every single one. In my mind, the ministerial hat has to be the most challenging one, simply because of the perception, and simply because, at least in my mind, you will tell me differently now,
Yes.
of the pressure from the outside forces to almost be perfect. You have a very prestigious job outside of that. You are communications director for the government of the BVI. You work hand in hand with the premier of the day. This is enough challenges as it is. And so that is enough, it's stress in itself. And so by all of that, now you have a lot of public, again, your life continues to be public. So if you walk the wrong way, you have the wrong outfit on. Oh, she says she's a minister and she's behind it. Oh, well, I didn't agree with Andrew with that. So when she going behind it, then she want to go big and broad on the people them pulpit. Talk to me, because this is real talk. Talk to me about some of those demons that you have to fight every day, because we know that people will talk. And I think, and I'm sure that you will tell us when you stop listening to what people said to get to where you're at today. But how were those steps? And how are those steps now? Knowing that you are now a woman of God, you have decided to go on that platform and preach his word to followers. When there are detractors out there who will pick apart your life, even from from the time you were 19 and you had that one, oh, was she going telling me about premarital sex when she had 2? And talk to me about that. How are you coping with that?
For me, I find it very easy to cope because my biggest and most important audience is God. Because the question is whether or not what I'm doing, God, does it please you? Is it this what you tell me? Is this what you want me to do? Because if this is where God wants what he wants me to do, I have to do it. I have to go forward. Because one of the things that, if we go back to Paul used to chastise. Paul killed. He did a number of things to Christians. And he had a Damascus conversion. And in his discussion to Timothy, he's saying to Timothy, when you have a testimony and God has done good for you, you have to go out there and you have to share the word and give that testimony, because it would be wrong for me to sit here and not share that testimony and share about the goodness of God. It can't always be inside of the walls of the church. You have to be outside of the walls of the church as well. So I can't move and walk according to what people think and what they feel, because one of the things I've learned, people will have their opinions. And you cannot allow opinions to shape you, to move you, because you're supposed to have a personal relationship with God. That's where your relationship is supposed to be. Because when you begin to think about what people think, what they feel, I think that's where you lose focus on what you really should or shouldn't be doing.
So your road to being able to accept this has been a journey.
Yes.
We live in a social media space now.
Yes.
As a communications person, you know.
Yes.
Everything is right now. People get to react. People get to say how they feel in an instant. So we come to I guess, embrace
Yes.
a world where we have, as we call it, internet gangsters. You sit behind a typewriter and you basically say whatever you
Yes.
feel. As a woman who has had the journey of not only growing up as a single parent mother, but now the legacy of you now being a single parent mother, what do you say to that 15, 16, 17-year-old person who is battling some challenges right now and are watching you in terms of breaking that cycle, breaking the barrier, and trying to let go? It's so difficult, for especially young people, not to care about what people think in the age of social media. What words would you have to young people in particular, young women in particular, and keep it in a narrow path, even if they're making mistakes, and sometimes monumental mistakes?
Okay, let me bend forward and put this book in.
Go ahead.
This is a book that, it was one of the only books, journals that I have, that really survived Hurricane Irma and Maria. And this, my entire cancer experience is in this book.
Oh.
One of the things I've always been good at doing is journaling. And I would tell any young girl, any female, even you, journal as much as you can. The things that are in your mind, in your thoughts, you write it down. In the Bible, it says you write your vision and you make it plain. When you write things down, you write your pathway. You have to see yourself where you want to be. And you walk towards where you want to be. And it doesn't matter who's on the side, as long as that vision is written plainly. You ask God to help you and you work towards it. You go to the right people who you know can help you to get to that direction, because you can't get there on your own. You need help to get there. So what I did, I write from where I was and where I want to be. And I know that on the side would be like grass. So you're walking with a cutlass and you're essentially doing that.
Yes.
As you're walking, because your focus is to get to that ultimate vision. How do you get there? Along the way, you will learn things about yourself you didn't know. You will meet people along the way who can help you, and you will meet people who will hinder you from getting to the next level. But your goal is to always remain focused, because you know where you want to be. So I used to visualize and see myself in the position and in the place before I get there. So no matter what's happening on the side, you just keep walking. You will fall, because any process that you go through, it's very difficult, because if it's easy and you walk there easily,
nothing in life comes easy.
No.
We know.
No, because when you get there, you will think that you got there in your own strength.
And so in that same thought, remember now, we are almost at the middle age in our lives now.
Yes.
So we have history
We do.
to show us that we know we're going to fall off and get back up, and
Yes.
fall off and get back up. We're going to have exactly what you said. Those folks who smile with you.
Yes.
But behind, those are the little demons that wish you the worst things. And you know now on reflection, those were the stumbling blocks that God was enabling you to get to where you're at. In the moment, though, because I have 2 teenage girls
Yes.
myself, it doesn't feel that easy. So they'll look at you and look at me and say, I know she doesn't say it because she doesn't a doctor, she doesn't a queen, she doesn't have that, but I just can't. But I want to remind them, those listeners,
They can.
You can.
You can.
And I like, and so many people talk about writing in a journal and writing. And when you write, you get to reflect and read back on what you have.
Yes.
And you get to see, this is what I wrote in 1994. And I'm in 2004 today.
Yes.
Let's see. And so I love that you said that. But in those steps that you take, and again, we have 50 million hats for the great Dr. Arliene T. Penn. You also wear that crown, the physical crown that you have. Shane, give her the crown. Show us the crown beautifully, and the sash. But in that same space, you continue to be that minister. You are now going to be on an international platform in China.
Yes.
Where you get to speak about your cervical cancer and impact lives more than you have known. But let's step it back a minute. we talked about how do you control the narrative in a way. And we know that people will speak. But what do you say to those critiques out there that say, I know she did not just tell me she's a minister and she promised God X, Y, Z, but she's going to China as a minister also, because you're never going to take off that ministerial crown.
No, I'm not.
And go ahead and be modeling bathing suits and carrying on. What are you saying to those folks that would say that?
I am telling the world this. I have a testimony. There are women out there dying of cervical cancer who don't necessarily have to die, because cervical cancer, it's treatable. It's highly treatable. And when you read statistics from the World Health Organization that some 600,000 women just in 2020 were diagnosed with cervical cancer, and some 300,000 women in 2020 died of cervical cancer, and you are alive. You are alive. And you have information and you know that you can have some sort of influence to help. You can't sit and do nothing. You just can't sit because women are dying.
So in essence, you're saying, I'm going to paraphrase it, and you're the communications director, you're saying that you are able and willing to accept that scrutiny because the platform is bigger than a bathing suit. It's
of course it is.
Good.
Of course it is, because life matters. Life matters. And people don't need to die prematurely because you're not getting your pap smears done regularly or early. Because once the cancer is detected at an early stage, you can save lives. Because the later you wait, and if you find the cancer in the later stages, it takes a toll on families. Now, I had to do a radical hysterectomy, but there are people who don't have to do that if you find it early and you pay attention to it. Because I'm on two sides of the coin, right? I know what it's like to have two children, and then you marry, and then you can't have children in your marriage, right? So I know what the feeling is like. Though I asked God to send me a husband who didn't want any more children, a husband who loved God, and send me a husband who fit the bill. And my husband's name is William Penn, so he calls himself Bill.
Right.
So I think that with that said, we just have to make sure we are putting ourselves forward to help others. That's what we're supposed to do. You help people along the way. And if you have information that could help others, then why not present yourself to help? Because I'm here because God has been good to me, and God can be good to them too.
So you said to me while we were getting mic earlier that you planned to have this title
Yes.
5 years ago.
Yes.
You knew. Yes. From in mind, I'm going to be Mrs. British Virgin Islands. Who gave you that courage? Outside of God, and we know God's going to always take the highlight there. But she literally said to me, I plan to be Mrs. BVI some 5 years ago. God don't tell me nothing when I say I'm going to be the next Oprah. I have a whole lot of time now because the wrinkles forming now. So it gives us that insight and that encouragement that you were not being swayed left nor right, and you had your eyes on that prize, because that's a big, hefty title to be. You know, and taking away the glamorousness of the title, it is a very big public title.
Yes.
Kudos to Alicia Green, who was, I think, doing a splendid
from the
job.
Wayne BVI organization, yes.
And keeping the platforms relevant, so it doesn't feel superficial. And I'll sit here right now, and I said to somebody a while back, I stopped hosting Queen shows.
Okay.
Because it felt like it wasn't relevant. I didn't like the platform, especially with two young ladies of my own. I did not like. And kudos to people who want to be the queen and the aesthetics, and that is fine. But at the stage I was at, I wanted to use my voice for something more than just looking gorgeous. So I said, no, I'm not gonna host any more queen shows if it's just about being a queen and just about being beautiful in beautiful gowns and beautiful skin. I feel as a female, it's important for me that you have more than a pretty face.
Yes.
You have to articulate and enunciate. That drives me crazy when somebody is so beautiful and not able to do that. So with this platform that you have, having so many titles in terms of your communication aspect, and you had already seen 5 years in the future, please tell me how you're going to use a particular crown locally outside of, informing us about cervical cancer to encourage the existing queens and the new queens to come to be more than just beautiful.
Okay. Well, I've been in pageants before as well. And this one is very much different.
Right.
We're different because this is about, as you say, a platform. It's about me getting out there and actually doing the things that I say that I'm going to do. It's about me making a difference. And that's why I was looking at the pageant for 5 years. At the time I was completing my PhD. So I felt that this pageant was the opportunity, it would have provided me with the opportunity because of its connection globally. Globally. Because again, remember, I'm following the numbers from WHO, World Health Organization. And I know that they have an international campaign where they're trying to alleviate the numbers. And now that we have the Sustainable Development Goals, there are some things that are in there in terms of looking at poverty, lowering the disease numbers for women and children. And it just fit where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Because again, I felt as though in order for me to get that message out, this was, I would say, the best organization for me to affiliate and align myself with, because there's a local component and then there's an international component. Locally, I'll be working with WIN organization, the WIN BVI organization, where we will be talking to women, yes, and we'll be raising some funds as well. I'm also aligned with the BVI Cancer Society.
I saw that, yes.
And in the past, I would not have done that because for me, I felt that the BVI Cancer Society was only focused on breast cancer. And I always felt left out of the loop. But now they have changed the messaging where it's all cancers. Because for me, I'm not shunning anyone, but I'm saying it's easy for you you can reconstruct the breast. You can put on the pads in the breast, to give you the little push-ups and all of that. But when you lose that part of your reproductive system, which is the prize and pride of a woman, when you lose that, you can't have any more children. So I just wanted to make sure that I use the best avenue. One shot. Give it that one shot. Because before, I used to tell people, I'm a cancer survivor. But I was ashamed to tell people I was a cervical cancer survivor because it's difficult to talk about your reproductive system.
I know.
And remember growing up, I used to hear people laughing at women who didn't have children in their marriage. I used to hear people laughing at a woman because she's barren. And if you go back to the Bible days with the woman with the issue of the blood, or sometimes when a woman have a period, she was set aside, outside. So when you grow up with that, hearing those things, they make you afraid and ashamed, even sometimes to go to the doctor. So I was afraid to tell people I was a cervical cancer survivor. But God has been good to me. So how could I sit and not help others? How could I sit and not help ladies around the world?
Elevate your experience with Flow's fiber-fast internet and mobile combined. Enjoy double data and talk time on 4 mobile lines. Plus up to 100 megabits per second fixed internet speed at the best rate, giving you the best value to stay connected. Visit the Flow store to sign up today.
So much more to talk about, but let me talk to you about this. Every single person that comes in this show, and I've had hundreds, and this makes me, outside of having my children and my husband, this is what I love. And we ask every single person, how do you want me to put your name on the screen? How do you want it to be reflected? And so Dr. Arliene T. Penn, if y'all were here, I'm saying T all the time. And I'm like, oh Lord, Shane, I know she didn't just say this T. Because we're going to be on real talk, because we're real, right? And so we know Dr. Arliene T. Penn. I know you're in government as Dr. Arliene T. Penn. And I see everywhere it's Dr. Arliene T. Penn. And we all have our moments of judgment. And I'm going to tell you right here in front of everybody else, I was like, I know she ain't just fucking on with this bloody T. Okay, we get it. She get a doctor. What we really doing now? So tell me, maybe nobody else don't care, but I need to know, what is this? So I could stop judging you, and we know you should not judge, but we flesh. We are flesh. Shane? What is this Dr. Arliene T. Penn? Educate me and perhaps others who might have had some fascination to wanted to know, well, Lord, she get to be a doctor now, she gonna look at a little T. Tell me what's going on.
There are several Arlene Penns in the Virgin Islands.
Okay.
Several.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had to open wrong mails. I have had to take mails to different Arlene Penns.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for me to distinguish myself from others,
you put that T in.
The logical thing was to include the T Penn. In that way, I know if I see mail come, it's not my mail. The mail belongs to someone else, because I used to make several calls. I have a sister-in-law, she's Arlene Penn. So it's really that simple.
I want to have to say
it's
Arlene,
really that simple.
T for Arlene, top dog, Penn.
Oh, you was waiting for that.
You're waiting for the sensational story.
So you see why you can't judge a book by its cover?
That's something to differentiate.
Yes.
Who that is, and that's fine.
It's important. It's important for me.
I really wanted to see, because I remember the premier writing something publicly at a time, and then he made sure he made reference to Arliene T. Penn.
Yeah,
and I wanted to know, and I literally said it, not with any malice at all. Really, I was just joking about that, but I really wanted to know the distinction with the Arliene T. Penn, and I know that you're very strong on it. And so I really thought it was a branding thing.
Okay. Well, it's branding now, because I graduated at American University with one of my degrees would be in journalism.
Yeah.
And I remember in one of my assignments, I did extremely well. I got an A at the front of the paper, but when I turned the back, it was an F on the paper because I spelt someone's name incorrectly. I just missed one letter. And I remember the professor saying to me, you can cost a person his or her life just by excluding or including something that's too much. So I think that's where I learned the valuable lesson, and that's where I really picked up that specific habit in terms of a person's name. Because when I say you can cost a person's his or her life, if it's just Arlene Penn and there's several of us, and something happens, how will you know which Arlene Penn it is? So I prefer that I'm differentiated as Arlene T. Penn. Understood. Now the T is Tedisha. That's my middle name.
Okay.
But T for timely.
Yes.
T for togetherness.
Top dog.
T for tomorrow.
So we got just a few more minutes with the show. Lord, Shane looking at me. I see Shane looking at me cross-eyed. You know when you get two sickos with girls together, we're not gonna stop. But we talked about you having this ministerial hat. We all over the place, but we're loving it.
Yes.
And I said to you when we were getting Mike, now, you know you should have been in the Methodist church preaching because we love young, energetic, and have had persons from every denomination, literally every religion, And one of my favorite people of the cloth, is Ishmael Childs, Pastor Ishmael Childs. And he always chides me about coming to his church and changing my membership. And I was like, and I say it all the time, I'm Methodist strong. I was like, we have enough people in Maryland Methodist Church. I had to stay there because if I leave, that's a whole pew done gone. So no. And so I ask you, and I want you to tell me, because this is a Methodist question to the Methodist stronghold. You grew up in a Methodist church, but we know that God has no color. So let me just preface it by saying, this is no disrespect to any church. This is just Karia asking about Methodist because she had that stronghold and a proud Methodist woman I be. And I grew up listening to you in the Methodist church. I grew up seeing you in the Methodist church with your steel pan. We love the energy and we love, because Methodist has been accused of being very, we don't jump up thing. I understand young people like a little bit more pizzazz. And so I am going to say the word saddened without insulting anybody else. This is saddened as personal to me. Oh boy, another young person left my little Methodist roots. And so now God has been so good to you and now you are a minister. What do you say to the Karias out there saying, Lord of mercy, she couldn't have stayed to the Methodist church to bring some souls over, even though, and now people going to call me, they're going to rep me, they're going to tell me all kind of thing. Nothing is wrong with where you're at. I have the most respect to every church here because I think I have more preachers than anybody else on my show because I love that conversation. But why did you leave the Methodist church?
Let's say this. I didn't just grow up in the Methodist church. My grandmother was Methodist. My mother was christened in the Anglican church.
Methodist cousin, that's still us. Go ahead.
When we were growing up, we went to Pastor Best church. We also went to, where there were so many different churches, even in Huntomsgott, we went to Church of God of Prophecy.
Yeah.
So we went to many different churches.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really linked to a church per se. When I got married, that is when I joined the Methodist church.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's in East End. My husband lives in East End. My husband he is a Methodist. I left by choice. I just wanted to do more. And I left because I wanted to go where God was sending me to.
Oh, he's in Methodist?
Yes, he is. But for me, I felt as though I needed to be somewhere else. And there's a saying that wherever God leads you, you have to go. You have to go. So it's not a matter of church. For me, it's a matter of where do I want to serve God? And I want to serve God where I am right now. As a matter of fact, that's the same church we got married in. We got married in the King Garden Bay.
So what do you say to the people?
Baptist church.
Because you said your husband is still a Methodist.
Yes, he is.
And you are a proud Christian. And we've had this discussion on many different platforms about women and men and the head of the household.
Yes.
So is it unfair for persons to say that it appears to be disrespectful that you have split up and you go on King Garden Bay and your husband is still in East End when the man is the head of the household? That's what they say. And by right, you should stay there with your husband.
The good thing is, we have this rule in our home. God first, my husband, me, children. There's always this formula.
So God first, your husband,
yes, for me.
You, and then children.
Yes, that's a formula.
Oh my God, I think I'm doing it wrong, but go ahead.
And my husband and I would have conversations, conversations that we think would benefit the family. As long as we have the same vision and moving towards the same vision, there are some conversations that are just limited to the family. And yes, I know people outside will talk, but the focus for me is what happens in the family. Was this a decision that we made in the family? So it's a discussion my husband and I had even before I decided to move forward, because I couldn't move forward without that specific blessing. We have a strong marriage. Very, very strong marriage. I come home from church, he comes home from church, and we meet together and we have that discussion. And when he wants to come to the King Garden Baptist Church, he would come. And then he would invite me as well to the Methodist Church. So we still have a very strong relationship. The children go to Methodist Church.
That's right.
They say I'm staying.
We gotta keep them. Yes.
I'm staying with I'm staying with him.
Understood.
But for me, I just want to make sure that I am obedient
to God.
Because I know the consequences of disobedience.
You just made a statement and you said we have a strong marriage. I think most of, at least locally,
Yes.
maybe not regionally where the show will air as well, they may not know who Mr. William Penn is, but locally everybody knows who Mr.
Yes.
William Penn is. You talk about a strong marriage, and I probably liked every one of your pictures when it comes to you and your husband and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But we really go back all the time on social media and how dangerous it can be if not used properly.
Yes.
Do you have any fear of having your private life too public?
Well, there are some things that are really, really, really private to us. And those things we keep between us.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other things which is okay for the public to know, because I only put out what I want
People to see.
what you want the public to know and for people to actually see, because you don't know who can learn from your experience.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes I think, we make mistakes to help others. We make mistakes for others to learn from. And I've been asked this question before, but the only thing I need to fear is really what the Heavenly Father has in store for me.
There you go. Speaking without, not a stammer. I know that we are running out of time. I'm watching Shane's face. Tell me how much time we have, Shane. But I want to know, and I'm looking real glittery today, but
yes, you are.
I didn't have any crowns.
But
so
you're matching.
We
you're
have to put the
me,
glitter on the face, child. These high resolution cameras gonna take up all of the stuff. But anyhow, what is next for Dr. Arliene T. Penn? What do you see? Because you have been planning your life. You had that 5-year plan where you knew you would have this crown. Now you have this crown. You have the doctor in front. You have the minister. You prayed for the husband.
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes.
And
I asked God to give me the opportunity to see my generations
I was
multiply.
going to say that when you were a brand new
and I saw my
grandmother.
brand new baby.
Yes. And so you are a
yes.
living testimony
Yes.
to writing, believing, praying,
Faithfulness.
serving God.
Yes, faithfulness.
What is next for Dr. Arliene T. Penn?
Well, I have to write my book.
Stop. We love it.
That I have to do.
I love it.
That I have to do. And again, let me stretch forward, because this is just I have to put this into words into paper into a book, because I believe that people can gain a lot from this, because I've put myself in a position right now where I'm forced to relive my experience through the cancer. Just this morning, my husband and I were having a discussion about it, that, wow, I have to really face the reality of what I was running from for years. Because for years, I kept my mouth shut, because I was told that no man didn't want a woman who couldn't have children, and no man didn't want a woman who would have had cancer. So for years, I was quiet. I went numb. But 5 years ago, I made up in my mind that I'm going to say something, and I'm going to speak. And this is going to be the platform that I am going to use to do that. Where this platform leads me, I don't know. But I'm walking into the unknown, knowing fully well that at the end of the day, as long as women get up, do their pap smears and get them done early, so that I want them to know now, fix early, so that they can live life faithfully, beautifully, and wonderfully. And I know that we can win together as long as we work together all things, I think it's possible.
Well, Shane is telling me my time is up, and let me tell you, my heart is full. My heart is absolutely full. I don't know if it's the older I get emotional. Child, you don't come have me crying on my own show.
Hey.
But let me tell you, I know that you've blessed so many people. And I'm so very pleased that you were able to accept this invitation to use this platform also to spread the word. I'm so very pleased that you trusted me enough to tell your story
Yes.
in your own words. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Dr. Arliene T. Penn, beautiful Mrs. British Virgin Islands, Doctor of Communications,
No, it's actually philosophy
Doctor of
in
Philosophy.
public administration
Child,
and public policy.
See, I will open a bunch of awards now.
Public administration and public policy.
Doctor of a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
Minister,
Yes.
wife,
Yes.
grandmother,
And mother still.
most of all,
Yes.
woman of God.
Yes.
And so I want to thank you.
Yes.
I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to talk. We wish we had another hour. The time has literally gone already to tell us your story,
Yes.
to empower some other females out there, to impact some females out there, and use your platform in the best way that God has ordained it.
Yes.
So thank you, my Sick House Bay friend.
Thank you as well. And
Oh,
it
it's my
was
pleasure.
easy for me to accept the invitation because I've seen your show many times.
Thank you.
And I saw myself sitting in the seat. So when you called, it was easy for me to answer you right then and there
I
to say,
appreciate it.
yes.
I'm blushing,
I'm
y'all.
pleased to be on Real Talk.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arliene T. Penn. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Karia Christopher. It is a pleasure every single time to get into your living rooms and for you to be able to hear my voice as I am able to tell my wonderful guest's story through their words. I am blessed and highly favored, and I thank you all. God bless you. Have a wonderful week. Safe journeys. Thank you, Dr. Penn.
Thank you.
Real Talk is proudly powered by Flow, sponsored by Nagico Insurances.